Moin moin, hello, welcome to a new episode of Pancake Talks, this podcast that with humble and so much love we have created from the PancakeSwap community. I'm Jeff Fran, PancakeSwap's community manager. Sorry for my voice, it's a little bit early, so I'm still waking up. And today we have a special episode. They're all special, don't get me wrong, but a project that it's also super new for me. But before presenting our guest today, let me say hi to my partner. Let me say hi to Annie. Hey Annie, moin for you.
Moin, Chef Fran. How is everything going?
Super red.
Super red, like the market and the
Yeah, like everything. I woke up with some alerts going off. My money is dropping, sir. Why?
Devs do something.
Deploying capital, stay lit.
Yeah, we need to survive. It's another week I survive. I'm here back in the Pancake Talks with Chef Fran, and we have Fluidity that is a project that I didn't know before this Pancake Talk, but it's a good chance to learn a new project and know what are they building.
I was about to say that you ruined the surprise, but the banner at the behind us says Fluidity. So yeah, I'm too super sleepy it seems.
Later leaks.
Okay, as you all hear about that, our guest is Fluidity, and we have Joel here backstage. Let me bring him. Hi, Joel. How are you doing today? Thanks for joining.
Of course, of course. Thank you for having me. It's very excited to be on.
Nice. Okay, Annie, you said the first words, so you can start uh, with
Yes,
interrogative.
so
Yeah.
I would like to say thank you, Joel, for joining these talks as well. And yes, let's just start with a bit of an introduction about Fluidity Labs. If you can start explaining what is Fluidity Labs and what's your primary goals and within the DeFi space.
Yeah, of course. So essentially, what we do at Fluidity Labs is we look at incentive structures, and we think we can do we can do it a bit more. I would say um, we can do it a bit differently. At the moment, incentive structures are essentially aligned with a very toxic mindset. And what I mean by that is, you want to have people spending, you want to have people moving their tokens, want to have people exploring different ecosystems and trying things out. Um, and we are currently rewarding quite the opposite. So we're rewarding people to keep their money sitting still. And so we think with the advent of like smart contracts and stuff like that, we can definitely come up with ways to reward specific user actions, and in doing so, create essentially tooling not only for users but also for protocols to capture order flow through the utility of their platform. If that makes sense.
Okay, so let me dig a little bit more. So basically, this protocol is providing rewards for the users to explore the protocols or make some specific actions or tasks or something like that.
Well, it's easier than that actually. We have a wrapped stablecoin derivative. It's called FUSDC, and the mechanism works as follows: whenever you wrap some USDC that you have in your wallet, um, essentially what happens is that it gets provided as collateral to lending markets, at the moment Aave.
Mhm.
And whenever you use FUSDC, you are able to earn some yield in a no loss lottery. And this essentially is in 5 tiers, and it's also dynamic. So it depends on the variables. So how much collateral is there generating yield, how many transactions are occurring, etc. And split between sender and receiver. But that's just the base yield. As I said, um, we see FUSDC as a composable tool for protocols to tinker around with, and essentially protocols themselves, they can, if they want, distribute their own tokens using FUSDC in this similar mechanism as well, if they want to make it more attractive for users to come to their platform.
Thank you for giving a small introduction of Fluidity Labs. I will pass the mic to Chef Fran to follow with more questions.
Yeah, sure. I have maybe a basic question. Like I like to do the dumb questions. Like what are fluid wrapped assets and how do they function within the Fluidity ecosystem? This is also new for me.
So fluid assets, they are these wrapped stablecoins. So you're on the page right now. If you would go to, if you press got it, because sorry, the privacy agreement. And then you can fluidify money. Essentially, when you go there, you get a page. And here you can wrap your stable coins for their fluid counterpart. And then what happens is when you wrap some, you can expect any transactions that you're building out with it, right? That you're making with it right now, um, to bear some yield in a rebate. Um, this yield could be maybe a couple of cents, but it might be a jackpot. We had a user a couple of months ago earn 500 ARB on one single TX. He was very lucky, but it can occur. It can occur. So we essentially gamify the rebate here, where it's based on the amount of transactions that you're doing, and it's rewarding the transaction itself. Now, a funny, cool mechanic here is it's split between sender and receiver. So if I send you 10 FUSDC, or however many, $1 in yield, I would be getting 80 cents and you would be getting 20 cents. And yeah, that's
I have to say that the UI UX, I mean the front end, it's awesome. It gives me the hype of moving things from one place to another. And for a user that is here for a long time, it's being hyped by some platform. It's nice.
Thank you so much. Well, I'll be sure to let our designer know. She actually is, in my opinion, the best designer there is. She's doing a lot of the stuff for Fluidity as well as for superposition. So I'm sure she'll be happy for the praise.
Let me ask one question, Joel, about one thing you mentioned already is the user incentive. You say something about there are incentive for both senders and receivers in transactions. So what kind of rewards can the users expect when they participate on Fluidity? Can you explain a little bit more this?
Yeah, of course. So I would generally divide that up into three different categories of rewards. So category A would be the base yield. Now the base yield is on every transactions that occurs, and that will be just in if you're fluidifying USDC, that will be in FUSDC. Now 80% goes to the person who initiates the transaction, 20% goes to the person receiving the transaction. But on top of that, you can also expect um, essentially any other type of token as yield, depending on how protocols wants to. So, for example, we did a what we call utility mining campaign together with Arbitrum, seeing every transaction made on Arbitrum with FUSDC earn a little bit of ARB as well in the same mechanism, sort of no loss lottery idea. This meant that you would have the essentially two different rewards on per transactions, one in FUSDC and one in ARB. So that's the category B. Essentially, this allows protocols to decide themselves, hey, FUSDC, we want to utilize it to capture some order flow towards ourselves. So we're going to distribute X amount of tokens to users who trade using FUSDC. And they can use that with the exact same mechanism as the base yield, making it a little bit of a different type of competitive landscape here, because now a user with FUSDC might want to go to a different platform because they have some incentive program going on. Then the third, and this is something that we're still working on, is through utility gauges. So we're going to be essentially having very similar infrastructure as something like Curve with CRV and VE CRV, voting on these gauges. But instead of voting for, thank you. I'll make sure to tell her that as well. Is that coming from the community or is that coming from us?
No, it's not coming from me.
So So we'll be having a very similar system with our governance token Fly. But instead of voting for emissions to be on specific liquidity pools, how it will work is a protocol will have a gauge. Let's say PancakeSwap will have a gauge. The more votes that PancakeSwap will have on their gauge, the more yield will come in the form of emissions on the transactions. Right? So it's very similar to to how that base yield would work. But again, here we are essentially saying like we're giving these different options for protocols to draw order flow to themselves, right? So if you are as a protocol, you have a lot of Fly tokens, you can vote on these gauges to get a lot of emissions, then that would be already good. But imagine if you don't have that, well, you can still compete. You can distribute your own governance tokens. You can even distribute NFTs through this sort of no loss lottery mechanism. So the reward, to answer your question, Anissa, is quite varied, and it just depends on how our partners want to utilize it.
Nice. And then regarding the Fly token you mentioned, you can lock the token to get like a binomics design, or you mentioned is similar to Curve in some form, but is
Yes.
like locking is possible with the token?
So not yet, and we're still finalizing the final piece because it works a little bit differently. It's more akin to voting on a protocol specifically. So meaning that any transaction with fluid assets there would increase the base amount of emissions there. However, that's not finalized yet. So we're still working on
Okay.
Nice, nice, nice. It's really nice, and I had to say, yeah, the platform goes super smoothly, and it's really nice to be navigating here and there. So yeah, shout out to that people who make this possible.
that. I'll let her know.
Talking a little bit, I was just moving around, and I realized the blockchains that you are in, and it's kind of uh, interesting, I can say, different blockchains that you are deployed on, and I want to ask. Um, how do you first why these blockchains like these different kind of places
Hmm. Hmm.
and how does Fluidity ensure seamless integration around these platforms?
That's actually an excellent question. So we chose Arbiter. So we did an initial deployment on ETH, but given the gas fees at the time, it simply wasn't feasible. The amount of yield that you could earn versus the gas that you would spend, it just didn't make sense. So at that point, we thought, okay, then um, we're going to be expanding into Arbitrum as a layer two. We've been in great contact with Off-Chain Labs and the foundation, and so that's essentially where the relationship between us and Arbitrum as a whole began. We're working with them very closely, also on superposition as well. Um, However, Solana and Sui is two very different stories. So Solana, actually, the Solana Ventures, they invested in our seed round. So this was one of the reasons to building out on them, and we've gotten a grant from Sui that we're also still working on. However, we think that Solana at the moment is going to be the next chain that is going to be receiving the big push. But Fluidity forms how I would like to envision it is sort of the horizontal expansion in a sort of two-tiered expansion for this utility narrative, where we want to make sure that when we deploy on a chain and we do so, that we start supporting those chains also sequentially with all the protocols and partners that are on there. And so at the moment, it's a little bit it's a bit slower because we're not fully pushing on that side yet. But we're going to be really working hard on the Solana side of things soon as well, which is very exciting.
Nice.
So, one question, Joel. So, did you choose any big partner for interoperability? How? Because I'm not sure if the interoperability between these blockchains is very good right now. Like from Solana, that is non-AVM, Sui is non-AVM with Arbitrum. So, do you find any partners already for interoperability solutions, or what is your planning here?
So each time we expand into a new ecosystem, we do a specific deployment for that ecosystem. So Solana has its own smart contracts, etc.
Mhm.
That's fine.
And the amount of tokens, for example, the flight tokens that are in each blockchain, uh, they you need to check the balance of the user in every different blockchain or is independent every blockchain.
Yeah. So Fly will be on Arbitrum only, but FUSDC and FUSDT, these are the tokens that we are spreading to different ecosystems. So
Okay.
yeah. And having done that, and so us deploying on Solana actually had a secondary benefit, which is it made us savvy with Rust as well, which is great because now we're also building stuff with stylus. So with everything comes its benefits.
Yes, and I mean I think it's very challenging, like because the programming language is different. Like you say, the smart contracts are all different in the different blockchains. I don't know if your team is very big, or how big is your team working on
I,
Fluidity?
s- I mean, I would say we were an average team size between uh, right now what 12 people, 12 to 15. Like it's not too big, but
Mhm.
I think what maybe there's a misunderstanding in the infrastructure because the essence here is not that in so essentially what happens is when we go to a new chain, whether that's EVM or not, we look for a couple of components on that chain. So we look, for example, for a suitable lending market to drop the collateral and stuff like that. But then we do a deployment specifically for that chain there, where there's no porting of stuff like that. So the yield generated in Solana will be the yield distributed in Solana. Does that clear things up?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Much better right now. And regarding the use cases, do you think gaming and NFTs are important sector for Fluidity to be in? Is your model particularly beneficial for these high velocity use cases? What do you think?
So that's an excellent question again. So I would say high velocity, yes. Gaming, yes. Like Gamblefy, yes. So basically, the best way to approach this would be to think of FUSDC and FUSDT as stable coins with additional functionalities that allow you as a protocol or even store side of things to draw in users, right? So let's say that you're a NFT marketplace and you want to you want to bootstrap a lot of new users. So you could use a campaign where if a user buys an NFT with FUSDC, that they not only earn some FUSDC, but additionally they might also earn with a relative rare chance, of course, a very special NFT, right? Making it so that users will want to try to get that NFT and pushing up NFT sales. The idea being here, a protocol can decide and play around with FUSDC or FUSDT, how they can steer this order flow. And this could extend to even like more traditional esque experiences. Think, shopping online, web shop, God willing, hopefully in the future, accepting FUSDC, but also doing a campaign where you can earn tickets to a concert or something, if you randomly. And so what I mentioned before is every transaction you earn some yield. This comes in 5 tiers, and we can specifically specifically make it so that whatever you want to distribute will only be distributed in one of those tiers. Right? So let's say you want it to be really rare, then essentially we can make it so that it only pops up in tier 4, such as the case with the NFT distribution or something. So now, whenever a user transacts with FUSDC on this NFT marketplace, they have a low chance of earning that NFT, but it's still there. It's sort of that scratch ticket effect. And in gaming, that extends as well, obviously. Just think of these fluid assets as composable stablecoins, I would say.
Nice. Thank you, Joel. Okay, I will interrupt you just a few moments, Annie. I was hearing you. I was navigating the homepage, and I was like, what would be your advice, since the concepts maybe can be that you were explaining maybe can be a little bit tough or maybe a little bit difficult for I always think about the retailers, since if we want the massive adoption, we need the most retailer users that we can teach them, we can send them to start learning, but we needed a starting point. So what would be your suggestions or your recommendations for new users on crypto when they try to understand what fluidity is, where to start? What are your advices?
So where to start? So specifically people new to crypto. I would guess in that case, I would say think of it as a you could look. I'm going to use the term non-custodially, and I would never use that when I'm describing it to someone that's not related to crypto. But like theoretically speaking, imagine the fact that imagine a bank where the interest accrued in your savings account is not going back into your account, but is actually released in a provable no loss lottery on every transaction that you're making, right? So now the interest that you're earning is actually based on the activities that you're doing, which from an economical standpoint is a very novel idea, right? Pushing economical actions through these incentives. So I would say imagine that, right? Because that's what we're doing. You deposit your tokens, it gets lent out, and then the yield gets distributed on any transaction. But then imagine that any protocol or any store, for that matter, could decide, hey, you know what? I want to distribute something on this as well. They'll become a little bit more crypto focused then. So I guess that's mission failed there. But the premise being, I think we're essentially distributing yield being generated from these lending markets for user specific act, and that's I think a novel approach.
Yeah. So, what will be the more easier way to earn this yield generated is just to send and receive money or these tokens, let's say.
I mean, you could do that, yeah. You could just send it back and forth, but then it would be also cheaper to just put it in that same lending market to generate that yield. I would think. We're just removing the barrier for users where on the one hand you want to make use of different types of yield, let's say Aave yield with your stable coins, but on the other hand you want to be able to trade. And FUSDC gives you the ability to do both, get exposure to these types of lending market yields or different type of incentive structures, because again, it just depends where you're using it, as well as still being able to have your tokens liquid and being able to trade it.
Okay, and there is. Do you have? There is any actor like a liquidity provider in your platform, or is doesn't exist?
What do you mean?
Like a liquidity provider. There is any actor or any any part of the equation like is to provide liquidity in your protocol.
Well, we the liquidity that's around, it's our users as well as some protocol owned liquidity. But I think, you know, ultimately, it's about like the way that it's used. And so we're working actually on something I can talk a little bit about. It's called Fluidity 1.5, which sees portion of the rebates to come back to users simply holding FUSDC. So we're actually just holding the token will then also earn you yield back. It's a bit of a different story. I can go into that maybe a little bit later.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
So let's go for this question. Like, it's about the future plans and developments you are maybe
Oh, there you go.
have. So there is some of the upcoming features or developments that you can share with us. Any leaks, please?
Well, I'll do my best to find something spicy. So in the immediate in the immediate timeline, what you'll see is we're deploying Fluidity 1.5. So Fluidity 1.5, we'll see some of the fees being generated by our protocol and liquidity, right? As well as some of the yield being generated that goes to void places, being distributed back to the holders of FUSDC. The reason why we do this is we want to make FUSDC just the most overall attractive DeFi token to hold or to trade, or whatever you do with it, you can expect some incentive. And this ties into our broader strategy with the token itself. But then immediately after that, we'll be releasing and focusing on these utility gauges. So then essentially what you'll be able to do is use Fly to vote on these gauges and steer the direction of order flow. As I said, the emissions will be on transactions of FUSDC or FUSDT going to these different protocols that you're voting for. So in that sense, now you can vote essentially where that goes and where that gets routed to the most, because the rewards will be higher there. And then after that, there is essentially a lot of stuff that we're excited about in terms of superposition as well. We'll have FUSDC integrated there, of course. But yeah, that is the immediate timeline for now.
Yeah, thank you for the leaks and about the future developments. And did you mention what are the lending and borrowing protocols you are using behind? It depends in each blockchain. Maybe you have different, right?
Yeah, so we're looking for, and it might sound silly, but what we're looking for is something that, if it were to be exploited, would pose a systemic risk. And in this case, it is the Aave lending markets, right? So imagine if Aave lending market. So this is the only the only risk factor at the moment, because if the Aave pool of USDC gets I would say if there's an exploit found or something like that, then users of FUSDC will suffer, of course, because that's where the collateral is. However, um, we took it strategically there, where if that happens, I think DeFi will be down for quite a while. Like there's so much, so much collateral there. So it's we're looking for for places that are robust, as well as provide the minimum amount of risk for us. But in the future, what we'll be implementing is essentially a dynamic diversification strategy. But we still have to develop a couple of things. One of them is the risk assessment framework for the different markets that we want to deploy on.
Okay, okay, I will go. I will continue. Oh, thank you, Joel, for all those beautiful answers. I think both Annie and me now get better what Fluidity Labs is. I hope the community also get it. I think we have been doing most of the questions. Oh, what happened there?
I
I
don't know.
think we, yeah. It seems there is like a war in your house. I think we have both asked all the questions that we had. Do you want to have any other inquiries to ask Joel?
No, from my side, that was all the questions, so I don't have more.
Okay, I think we had a quite good overview about what Fluidity is. We also navigate together the web page. Anything you want to say, Joel, about Fluidity, about the market, about any other questions that you may have for us? Anything you wanted to say and you couldn't, you can do it now.
Yeah, I am. I'm quite curious. Well, why pancakes?
As far as I know, since I'm one of the oldest chefs in the kitchen, but I'm not from the founder members. It was this is what I heard. It was like a joke. I don't know if you get the bunnies with pancakes on top of their heads images. You can just Google it, like bunny with a pancake on top of its head, and you will see some quite hilarious and funny images about poor real bunnies that got a pancake in their head. And I think it started as a joke, and some of the founder members said, "Okay, that's a good theme from the for the decks that we are looking for." And then it started, and it was like those ideas like that went crazy since people love it. I think that's the reason behind pancakes. And then the association like bunnies are the chefs that are baking pancakes because they like to put their pancakes on their noses, and yeah, then the whole narrative started.
Also, because it was so many food tokens going on during this DeFi summer, so I think pancakes are special food.
I agree. I agree. I think it's a great food, underrated in many cases. Like even though people uh, it's very versatile. But having said that, I love the branding. I think it's very cute.
Yeah, I think with that, for that reason, that's of course it's not the only and the main one. We can't attribute all the success to only the theme, but I think the branding it's on a big position in terms of user attractiveness, and that is something Pancake always does really well, and that's you can see it on the numbers. So yeah, thanks Joel.
I mean, it's literally what Fluidity Labs as an entity as well tries to address, where it's very it's not like we're doing it through incentive structures, but I feel like in general it's either uninspired UX or wrongly designed incentive structures. But retention is something that at this space we definitely need to work on. I'd like to ask maybe you, Fran, what's your idea on how, or maybe a better question is, which protocol do you think does their user retention very well? I would like to ask you that.
Hmm. Okay, that I use, that I get the user retention. It's quite good. Okay, I'm not saying this because I work here, but I think PancakeSwap has always put an eye on how to retain users and how to guide users into a most smoothly navigation through the platform. The problem starts when you start complicating your product, like for example, the V-Cake Vnomics and all those matters behind that. It's super easy to teach the users. It's super easy to keep smoothly into UI UX. And then, for example, when PancakeSwap started, you could only swap, and then you add liquidity provision, you add the farms attached to that, then you add the pools, then you add the IFOs, and at the end of the day, you have a one big product, but also you have another 15 products around that. So it's kind of difficult to try to guide the users, let them know that you have a full variety of things to do, and also keep the UI UX clean and easy to use. But I can, when I go outside, I mean, when I go to other protocols, I realize this is something that happens to mostly all of them. I mean, there are products that are completely built from other kind of people. I don't know. I can mention, for example, Curve. You go to Curve and you know that it's not a product for retailers, since the UI it's super tough. You need to be super careful where you are entering. I mean, it's their style, and I think it's something remarkable, but I think it doesn't attract new users. You need to be experienced on that. And to mention other products, and I'm not saying that Curve is not a good product, we all know that, but I think the UI is thought by to be used by experienced and advanced users, which is another protocol that I use. I think I mentioned this on the past. The more time I spend on crypto, the more conservative I became. It's like I'm not aping here and there like in the old days. Maybe it's because of the market. Maybe it's because I'm getting old too. But Annie, you can help me with this.
Well, regarding to the question about retention, I agree that so far Binomics design is the one that aligns better the the users and also the different actors to the long term. They get committed to the protocol locking the tokens, so that make them the user get committed to the protocol, and that makes like around this Binomics design usually came a confederation of protocols. Like in PancakeSwap, we have aggregators. There are protocols that start locking cake forever, and they get voting power. And that's originally what happens with the DeFi wars, like different protocols fighting for voting power. That's was very interesting to watch. Like, and then you will see different protocols building on top of us, or different protocols building like bribe markets, different optimizations. Yeah, so I think that's so far the best design in terms of incentives for retention.
Very cool. Thank you for the broad answer. I agree.
Yeah, I think this is kind of a big topic that maybe not all the projects takes care when they build the product. I mean, because maybe they don't have the vision, or maybe they don't have the adequate people to do it. Like for example, your designer knows how to keep the attraction, how to, yeah, to keep your attention, like those games where when you are converting and fluidifying, I don't know if I say it okay, money. It's quite nice, since in this era of 2-3 seconds retention per user, looking at some USDT spinning on a wheel, it's kind of, I mean, it's silly, but it's great because it's the third time in this podcast that I mentioned, so it works. I mean, those things works, and I think all the projects should have at least one people trying to know how to create the Simulex experience, no matter if you're just doing a DEX or if you are just if you are doing a lending and borrowing market with binomics behind. I mean, at the end of the day, people need to know what they are doing, at least in a super low level. And I think this is something that all the projects should take care.
Not only that, I think that knowing what they're doing is important, but to an extent, because what's more important than that is that they come back. You know,
Yeah, sure.
I think that's something that a lot of protocols are not designing around. They're designing around the stats. You know what? Like you said, Fran. We should. This is a very broad conversation, but there's a lot to talk about here. I think maybe for a future talk.
Okay, you're always welcome. You said that, and I thought that, okay, I think at one podcast we can try to find people who does these kind of things and invite like a panel of these people to ask the right questions, like where to see, what are the directions that project should take. You gave me an idea, so let's see if we can make it something with UI UX people, and yeah, an
Oh,
architect.
that'd be awesome. Also, by the way, I want to say the setup for the live stream was amazing. I really rate the setup. I'm gonna try and steal some components there for fluidity and superposition. Feels really nice.
Nice, nice, nice. Okay, okay. I think you told me you also need to go, and we are running out of time with the hour. And the idea is just like as I told you before, just to chill a little bit, talk about crypto, talk about, in this case, fluidity, talks about PancakeSwap, how can we benefit each other. I think we already covered most of the questions. I will left with a better idea about what the fluid asset and what fluidity does into the ecosystem, and also for the nice ending talking. Not all the guests keeps talking a little bit with us, and if we don't have any more to talk before wrapping up, I just want to say thank you so much, Showell. Thank you so much, Annie, too. And yeah, say if you want to say something before we wrap up, this is the moment, guys.
I just want to say thank you, everybody, for being here in another Pancake Talk.
Yeah, and thank you both for having me on. It was great. For everyone that liked the designs, check out our website on fluidity.money or superposition.so. Both would work fine. And check out if we do user retention in a good way.
Nice, 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 nice. I will. I will. Okay, thank you. Oh, for those who don't remember, this episode it's recorded and it's going to be kept into our AMA playlist on YouTube. So good afternoon, good evening, good morning if you're like me, and have a really nice rest of the day. And see you soon in another Pancake Talks episode. Bye, bye, guys.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.